His stumbling into the snowy ground made no discernible sound, apart from a muted groan. Collapsed. His form lay sprawled, prone, breath hissing into the packed, white ice, moistening lips as night approached, whispering the word rest over and over to strange, unguessed effect. For as the broken, airy word lingered in the quiet, he heard a sudden breeze rush and swell, until it just as quickly fell silent. Doubtful that he mistook his bearings, he stood up to look toward the darkening hillside, whose flat summit he now tried to climb. Scraping up the slope, fighting through the deep drifts, finally alighting on the peak, he gazed from the hilltop as fatigue forced his knees to drop. Down the darkening valley, through the shade of hills upon the shallow glade, stood a tall grey stone keep, watching over the deep forest, ancient, towering high above with once overpowering strength, now lost to all memory, for nowhere had the castle's history ever before been written down, nor that of the age when the town was once a Roman capital, lighting the skies with a citadel of 100 fires. The sight that now met his eye in the twilight grey was but the silhouette of former days. And candlelight in open bays, each taper's pale flame burning like a star's weak, faraway flickering. His gaze fixing upon this glow, eagerly he leapt across the snowdrifts. His thought of hearthstone warmed by ceaseless flame, baked and formed to shiny hardness, of rising steam from spiced wine in the ruddy gleam, the crisp edges and tender white flesh of bread, warm and light, roasting spits of quail and pheasant cooked to golden tenderness, the pleasant cacophony of scullery and larder drawing him ever harder toward the tower. Under the strain of plate twisted and rusting, the pain of slipped greaves awry, misplaced over knees, his weak steps traced jagged outlines down the gentle slope. As he ran, with fragile hope, he conjured the touch of velvet sheet and bed caressed by the heat of warming pans, the touch of downy goose quills, firm yet soft drowsy eyes, welcoming a night of dreams, snuggled in the glow of candle beams, envisioning the grail in light too beautiful for words or sight, while from its cup an endless fount fed more souls than he could count, its waters sacred as the tear of suffering cleansed of fear, nourishing the heart unseen, unquenched by time or loss, in faith entrenched. As he labored to the base of the tower, his pace weakening, he found its doors wide open, but with no sign of life inside, just still in the cold, black air, breath clouding his frozen stare, cobbles clattering beneath his feet, without answering voice or eyes to greet him. Lights swaying gently in the winter frost burned throughout, with discarded arms tossed everywhere, plumed lances of varied hue, in red and gold diamonds, swirling white and blue lines, some white, dotted in red shapes of the beast that languished dead before the pious Angle's sire, who felled its wrath and quenched its fire, others decked in pale fleur-de-lis upon azured fields, each trophy honoring accomplishment and quest, love requited, or the blessed promise of a sacred light with beams to pierce the weakest sight. Other items, too, lay scattered about, some untouched, others battered from long use, curved axes bright and fierce, spiked maces of might impressive, carved daggers old and rare, each a treasure manyfold. Most striking of the arms that lay, however, in shadow and faded grey light, were the swords, of razored blue-tinged steel and roughened hue, handles carved and struck with gems fit for crowns and diadems, blades with runes of moon and star etched in languages from far away, some from the crested doors of Denmark, others from the shores of Saxon, Norse, and Breton sands. Accomplished work from many lands, even swords tempered in the hot forges of Logre and Camelot lay about the snowy ground, a once rich, now barren plain, crowned with the pride of an age, like stones without a grave for fallen souls he could not save. Piles of abandoned armor, too, lay scattered without sign or clue, sturdy plate and fine linked chain, untarnished still by time or rain, each like the empty husk of a night of failed trial or inglorious flight. Uncertain at the sight of the gear scattered around him, with fear unconcealed, he glanced back, although he knew no other choice than to go onward. Walking through the tower gate, he sensed soon an increased weight in his own arms, perceiving why the plate and weapons were piled so high. His shoulders began to buckle and sway, knees almost giving way. Hesitant now how to proceed, in doubt he could succeed in combat without shield or blade. He then considered whether the Grail made each challenger submit to such a test of faith to relinquish weapons, lest in desperation they might prove a temptation. He began to remove his accoutrements and heavy chain shirt, easing the soreness and pain with each cast-off piece. His eye then fell upon a halberd close by, its length almost twice his height, tipped with a curved, bright, jagged blade. Avoiding dishonor to his sword with a heavy axe, the lord cut the wooden end. The severed oaken handle, still strong, however broken from its tip, rested easily in his arms, weightless against the castle's charms. Warily, then, he followed the glowing trail of torches, little knowing what subtle trace drew him to a place from cold and barren snow.